东方的5.35，南方3.64。5.35，南方3.64。
航5.5，1.15角。
5.35，南方3.64，1.15角。
东方的5.35，上航9.56，1.15角。
东方的5.35，南方3.64，1.15角。
On March 21, 2022, at noon, at Kunming Changshui International Airport in Yunnan, China, flower farmer Zhou Zhenghang was seeing off his daughter Yudi, who was heading to the terminal. Due to the pandemic, Yudi's company had relocated to Guangzhou, and she was traveling with 8 colleagues. Before parting, Zhou Zhenghang reminded her, "Call me when you arrive." Watching his daughter, carrying a backpack with a sun umbrella in the side pocket, walking towards the departure hall. On that day, Kunming had clear weather with a light breeze, and the highest temperature was 26 degrees Celsius. Everything appeared calm and normal. At 2:38 p.m., in the office of Beicheng Mining Company in Wuzhou, Guangxi Province, employees were casually going about their tasks, anticipating the 5 p.m. closing time. Suddenly, there was a deafening sound outside the window, and people could feel the ground and windows shaking. Everyone rushed to the windows, looking around but seeing no signs of anything. Meanwhile, farmers near Teng County, Wuzhou, hearing the noise, looked towards the source. In the dense mountain forest, thick smoke was rising. Li Chenbin, a China mobile worker involved in transfer work, jumped on a villager's motorcycle to head towards the smoke. Before reaching the location, both of them smelled the pungent odor of aviation fuel. Pushing through the trees, they were confronted with a sight that would haunt them for a lifetime. Before them, what used to be a lush green valley now displayed the colors of scorched earth. Half of it was black soil lifted by the impact of a massive object, and the other half was burnt vegetation. Besides the tens of thousands of unidentifiable fragments scattered on the ground, it was initially unclear what had happened. The confusion didn't last long. Li Chenbin, focusing, noticed torn clothes on tree branches. With a step, he found a wallet partially embedded in the soil, containing someone's ID card. Looking more closely, there was a child's toy nearby, and the increasing number of personal items around made him realize he was standing on the site of a tragic plane crash. Back at the Beicheng Mining Company office, curious employees accessed surveillance footage in hopes of finding clues to the explosion's origin. A video clip from the surveillance cameras made its way online. The almost vertically descending object in the video was from MU5735, a flight of China Eastern Airlines traveling from Kunming to Guangzhou. The aircraft crashed into the valley, creating a crater with an area of 45 square meters and a depth of nearly 3 meters, with over 40,000 fragments scattered over 2,600 square meters. It was later revealed that there were 132 people on board, including 123 passengers and 9 crew members, none of whom survived. Due to the aircraft's high impact speed, possibly exceeding 1,029 kilometers per hour, close to the speed of sound, the bodies of all the victims could only be identified through DNA matching. At 6 p.m., Zhou Zhenghang finished his day of farming. He took a break in the village tea room. Villagers discussed the news of a plane crash. "My daughter was heading to Guangzhou today, luckily not Guangxi," Zhou Zhenghang said. "It was the flight that took off after 1 p.m., someone replied. Upon hearing this, Zhou Zhenghang felt a sudden weakness, quickly returned home, and tried calling his daughter, but the phone couldn't connect. In his memory, Yudi was a very sensible girl, and the entire household, from small appliances to the TV, refrigerator, and mobile phones, along with the clothes and shoes his younger son wore, were all bought by Yudi. More than half of the 100,000 yuan needed for his grandfather's cancer surgery was also contributed by her. Around 11 p.m., local police and district officials arrived at Zhou's home to collect DNA samples. Despite his efforts, the phone still couldn't reach Yudi. He knew the situation was grim for his daughter. To understand this flight accident, we must go back to March 21, 2022, at 1:16 p.m., Kunming Changshui International Airport. MU5735 took off as planned, with an expected arrival time at Guangzhou by Yunnan International Airport between 2:52 p.m. and 3:05 p.m., with a total flight time of about 1 hour and 55 minutes. After takeoff, the flight maintained a cruising altitude of about 29,000 feet and entered the Guangzhou control area at 2:17 p.m. from the Nanning control area. At 2:20 p.m., as the flight approached the descent point of its route, the aircraft suddenly started a rapid descent, and its ground speed began to decrease. The Guangzhou Baiyun Airport Control Tower attempted to contact the MU5735 crew after noticing the anomaly, but the radio remained silent. Crews from nearby flights and the Zhuhai Jinwan Airport Control Tower also tried multiple times to contact MU5735 but received no response. On the transponder of the lost aircraft, there was no indication of any emergency situation. At 2:23 p.m., the plane lost signal, and complete communication was lost with the outside world over Wuzhou City. According to original ADS-B data from flight radar, the flight began a rapid descent to about 2,200 feet around 2:20 p.m. The plane descended at a rate of 300 feet per second for 1 minute and 12 seconds, indicating a nosedive. Although there was a temporary climb of 1,300 to 1,600 feet, the aircraft then descended again. At 2:22:35 p.m., the last data transmission showed an altitude of 3,225 feet and a speed of approximately 432 miles per hour, until it finally crashed in the mountains. Already resigned to the situation, Zhou Zhenghong and his family wanted to participate in the search and rescue operation, not for anything else but to know as soon as possible if there was any hope. However, their requests were repeatedly denied. In the following days, Zhou Zhenghong smoked heavily every day, thinking about his daughter who had started working away from home at the age of 18, feeling a deep sense of guilt. Finally, after 5 days, Zhou's family was informed they could go to Wuzhou, and they managed to arrive at the accident site for the memorial before the end of the first 7 days after the incident, a Chinese tradition. Due to the slim possibility of finding the remains, the family brought back soil from the scene, wrapped in Yudi's favorite clothes, as a form of commemoration. On April 17, China Eastern Airlines notified Zhou's family to collect Yudi's remains. It was sealed in self-sealing bag, about 8 inches in size, containing a mixture of black soil and leaves. When picked up, one can't tell it contains any human tissue. After carefully cleaning, Zhou's family found 4 small bone fragments the size of a thumb joint. So, the family placed these bones, along with the soil, into an urn and brought it home. According to local traditions, people believe that placing iron nails in the grave would disturb the soul's rest. Zhou's family used a magnet to clean the soil and found various sizes of rivets. Surprisingly, pouring the soil on the table revealed some tiny metal fragments. Yudi's remains had become one with the wreckage of MU5735. Modern aircraft design incorporates safety redundancies to the utmost extent, with critical equipment having 2 or even 3 backup systems. Even in the event of dual-engine failure, an aircraft can glide for a considerable time relying on speed, altitude, and wing lift. Therefore, the reality of air crash records is that most planes maintain a normal flight attitude after accidents occur. On August 24, 2001, Transat Airlines Flight 236, piloted by Captain Robert Pichet and First Officer Dirk de Jager, experienced a fuel leak and loss of power over the Atlantic Ocean. The Airbus A330, carrying 306 people, successfully glided and made an emergency landing in the Azores, covering a total distance of 121 kilometers. This incident set a new world record for the longest gliding flight by a commercial aircraft. In the history of aviation disasters, a plane crashing with a nose-down, free-fall posture with an intact fuselage is very rare. Such incidents are either due to very specific accidents or flaws in design and procedures. For example, a similar nose-down crash occurred on May 11, 1996, with ValueJet Flight 592, a McDonnell Douglas DC-9 aircraft. After a fire broke out in the forward cargo hold shortly after takeoff from Miami, the aircraft lost control due to severed circuits to the wings and tail. The plane, with Captain Candy Quebec and First Officer Richard Hazen at the controls, crashed vertically into a swamp, killing all 110 people on board. The investigation found that 144 expired but improperly handled oxygen generators were stored in the cargo hold, leading to a chain of events. Another incident occurred on January 31, 2000, with Alaska Airlines Flight 261, a McDonnell Douglas MD-83. This aircraft experienced a similar crash event where the horizontal stabilizer's screw jack assembly failed, leading to a rapid descent. Despite the efforts of the experienced crew, Captain Ted Thompson and First Officer William Tansky, the plane ultimately crashed into the Pacific Ocean, resulting in 88 fatalities. The investigation revealed that improper maintenance of the horizontal stabilizer assembly was the root cause. The aircraft involved in the China Eastern Airlines MU5735 crash was a Boeing 737-800, with a total age of 6 years and 10 months at the time of the incident. It had completed 8,986 flights, accumulating a total of 18,239 hours of flight time, making it a relatively new aircraft. Official announcements stated that, upon investigation, the flying licenses and health certificates of all 3 pilots were valid. The pilots' economic and health conditions were reported to be good, and they were described as performing well in their usual duties. Their family situations were also characterized as harmonious. Despite earlier reports from the Wuzhou Meteorological Bureau indicating a severe weather warning for convective weather 4 hours before the accident, subsequent official notifications clarified that the weather at cruising altitude was suitable, with no hazardous conditions. MU5735 crash occurred during China's pandemic lockdown, and it seemed that the Chinese government had anticipated the worst possible cause for the crash. If confirmed, it could lead to severe public opinion consequences. From the beginning, while the rescue operation was underway, authorities implemented security controls at the scene. Volunteers and reporters were initially denied access, and it wasn't until the 23rd of March that family members were allowed to enter the site for mourning. Guangzhou Baiyun Airport, the destination, also initially refused reporters entry to interact with waiting passengers' families. The passenger list of the 132 people on board became classified, and as of this broadcast, the Chinese government has not released it, citing privacy concerns. The 2 flight recorders, the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, were successively recovered on March 23 and 27. They were sent to the laboratory of the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB. On April 1, the NTSB announced that they were assisting the Chinese authorities in downloading the data from the black boxes. However, they cannot disclose the findings of their investigation without Chinese consent. Curiously, after the MU5735 flight accident on March 21, 2022, China Eastern Airlines announced the immediate grounding of all its Boeing 737-800 aircraft, including a total of 224 planes from China Eastern Airlines, Shanghai, and China United Airlines. However, in less than a month, on April 17, they resumed flights. Clearly, the problem was not with the aircraft itself. Another anomaly was that, despite China Eastern and the Civil Aviation Administration of China repeatedly denying the possibility of human error, China Eastern introduced new requirements the day after the accident. They mandated that instructors lead the team to achieve a 3-person crew with 2 senior captains and 1 senior first officer. Alternatively, they could use a 3-person crew with a captain, an instructor, and a first officer. The company also required mandatory psychological assessment for all pilots. Although China and international civil aviation accident investigation regulations require the results to be announced within 1 year of the incident, the Chinese Civil Aviation Administration published a brief accident report of only 953 words, just 1 year after the accident, on March 21, 2023. The report ruled out issues such as crew qualifications, maintenance, retained faults, declared hazardous cargo, navigation and surveillance equipment along the route, dangerous weather, and air traffic control errors. However, it stated that due to the complexity and extreme rarity of the accident, the investigation was still ongoing. Notably, the report did not exclude human factors as a possible cause. Let's focus on the pilots carrying out this flight mission. Rewind to the afternoon of March 21, 2022, with 3 individuals in the cockpit of MU5735 flight. The captain is Yang Hong Da, 32 years old, appointed as a captain in January 2018, with a total flight experience of 6,709 hours. The first officer is Zhang Zhengping, born in 1963, 59 years old, who underwent Air Force training after being selected by the 14th Air Force Aviation School in 1980 and graduated in 1983. He piloted various aircraft, including Y-5, A-24, Boeing 737, and Boeing 767, accumulating a commercial flight experience of 31,769 hours. The third person in the cockpit is the second first officer, 26-year-old Ni Gong Tao, who was conducting training as an observer during the incident. It is worth noting the first officer Zhang Zhengping. He previously served as an instructor at China Eastern Airlines, guiding over 100 pilots. The captain of this flight happened to be one of his students. It is not difficult to see that Zhang's position is quite awkward. As one of China's most experienced commercial pilots and a recipient of the Meritorious Pilot Medal, he finds himself assisting his own student at this moment. Moreover, according to China Eastern Airlines salary standards, the first officer's income is likely at least a quarter of the captain's, despite Zhang having more than 5 times the flight experience. Additionally, official reports prior to the incident were inconsistent with the facts. The initial reports claimed that the 3 crew members had a good financial situation and harmonious family lives. However, Zhang had suffered financial losses due to failed investments, nearly depleting his lifelong savings. He was divorced before the accident and rarely went home, residing at the company instead. Furthermore, the official statement of the crew's exemplary behavior was contradicted by an incident where Zhang triggered a terrain alert during a previous landing, resulting in his demotion from captain to first officer by China Eastern. Let's recount the abnormal details. The radio and transponder silence before the crash, the unusually secretive policy regarding the crash details, the lack of a mechanical failure explanation, the brief 27-day grounding of the aircraft type, China Eastern's requirement for a 2-captain policy, and the challenging life circumstances of First Officer Zhang. The information suggests a high likelihood of human intervention in the crash, with First Officer Zhang being implicated as the perpetrator. This This judgment is supported by a third party, as leaks to the Wall Street Journal on May 17, 2022, cited insider information pointing to First Officer Zhuang as the source of the accident. In conclusion, the MU5735 flight disaster, though an inland incident, shares similarities with the Malaysia Airlines MH370 disappearance. The details of what happened in the air in both cases remain largely unknown. While suspicions regarding Captain Zahari of Malaysia Airlines were based on eliminating other possibilities, it's essential to acknowledge that conclusions in these situations are probabilities, not definitive truths. Taking lessons from the 2015 Germanwings crash, China's Civil Aviation Administration urgently mandated a minimum of 2 persons in the cockpit during flights, even if one needs to leave for work or physiological reasons, requiring the simultaneous presence of another crew member, including cabin crew. Assuming First Officer Zhuang is the culprit, questions arise about how he subdued 2 young and robust individuals in the cockpit during the 18-minute descent from 220 to 238. Even if force was used on one, how did he ensure the other wouldn't report to the ground using the radio? Even if he took advantage of the time when the 2 individuals did not fasten their seatbelts to put the aircraft into a dive, the 2 individuals would still have multiple opportunities within these 18 minutes to subdue the assailant and save the aircraft. The possibility of deliberately manipulating the aircraft's aerodynamic surfaces during the descent, causing fatal damage, may explain the crew's inability to save the aircraft after subduing Zhuang. This could also account for the aircraft's brief climb just before the crash. If true, debris from these aerodynamic surfaces, such as flaps, ailerons, and elevators, would exhibit features of a relatively slow impact with the ground. Only if we could see the crash report. The matter of fact is, all crucial information, including the contents of the black boxes, is securely locked away in an office safe somewhere in Beijing. These vital details may remain undisclosed for a long time, perhaps indefinitely. Returning to March 22, 2022, at the MU5735 crash site, a search and rescue team finds a note in the mud. It belongs to Zhou's daughter Yudi, who had a hobby of and researched jade accessories. She wrote, "A jade button with the characters for safety." The meaning is clear, symbolizing safety year after year. The Zhou family had suggested protecting the area, planting over 100 trees to show respect for the deceased. We brought back too few remains. The remains buried in the soil are hard to retrieve, and scattered ones are hard to find. Our loved ones are truly mingled there, said Zhou. For the Zhou family, the immense comfort lies in that jade button note. For the families of the air crash victims, every word on this piece of paper is a luxury. Among them, many may never know the cause of their loved ones' deaths in their remaining years. However, for those still alive, as long as we continue to tell the story of China Eastern Airlines flight MU5735, our pursuit of the truth will never cease.